You're live. Yoo-hoo! Hello.
Hello, everyone. Tuning in, listening, connecting.
So, blessings. I think it's even interesting for us to be beside each other.
Definitely.
I'm like, wait a second. We've been doing these River of Rose consciousness episodes. I think last four months.
Yes.
Quite consistently, at least maybe like 2 every month. And I, from wherever I've been, and Lise usually
From
Glastonbury. And as you can see, we've been brought together by the force of the rose, by the force of the universe.
Definitely.
And we thought, heck, when we're on the other side of the planet, we're still doing these talks. Why don't we share one of these beautiful musings now that we're together in person?
In the same space.
In the same space. So thank you, Lana. Thank you for journeying across the globe from England to Costa Rica, following that strong call, that strong knowing in your heart and your gut to follow the heart.
And follow the thread of the rose.
Follow the thread of the
Definitely to be here and be surrounded by all this natural beauty, which will really nourish our talk today and our topic today on beauty.
Mm-hmm. So before we dive right in, would love to begin with a little short meditation. And before that, maybe also just invite you listening to also open up a sacred space. To connect deeply and just honor that we're about to talk about some beautiful things. Some say sacred, mystic, heart-opening rose things, and just to honor that. Really honoring every moment that we can do, ritualizing all of life, but right now honoring this moment by we're lighting a candle here in front of us, and we actually went out, which means it probably wants to be lit again in this moment together. So if you watch and you want to light a flame, then light that.
Especially since we're in the time between Imbolc and the spring equinox, so it's a time to light the fire of creativity. And our topic of today, which is the topic of beauty and why and how beauty is important in our lives, but also on a spiritual path, also really plays into that, because it's a time where we revive and reawaken and resurrect our creativity, and beauty is definitely a necessary element to do that. And for us, of course, a lot of the beauty comes through the energy of the rose. So you just shared some beautiful rose oil with me, which is something that we both use a lot to allow us to tune in and to connect to the energy of the rose, or some rose water.
Some of the rituals. This is a beautiful rose mist, and just closing our eyes and allowing ourselves to bathe in the frequency of the rose through her very true physical presence in this beautiful rose mist from Glastonbury. Thank you, sister, for the gift.
And it's just a simple ritual and an easy way to tune in. And we really, part of the beauty way, which is our topic, is creating these meaningful rituals to ritualize our lives and bring more beauty into our lives.
Yeah, thank you. That feels like a really nice beginning. Just sharing what, in our perspective, is the beauty way. And we've been. I want to share what we've been up to. We've been preparing to and writing a book together about the rose and about rose consciousness. And one of the key elements about the rose that she's sharing right now is the beauty way. And it's how do we live our lives in beauty, as expressions of these blossoming flowers in every moment. How do the fragrances of our expression enlighten the people around us and bring them joy and bring them into their hearts? And there's definitely some beautiful tools that we can use to support us really walking that beauty way in our own way. You know, what is the beauty way? And do you want to begin to share what you feel that beauty way is, how to explain it?
Definitely. Well, for me, beauty it's an inner beauty. It's a soul beauty. I feel that people are beautiful when they feel like they're alive.
Mm-hmm.
It's a quality of presence. Like when you see that someone is really present with you, but more than that, with themselves, with who they are, with their purpose, their mission, their creativity, their talents, then there's something really beautiful that emanates from that person. Kindness for me is another form of beauty. Compassion is a form of beauty. Our behavior and our way of being can be beautiful. I feel it's important to talk about this because beauty has got a bad reputation nowadays. Like we think beauty is superficial, or when we think of beauty, we only think of the superficial, like the physically visible. And there are things that surround us and people that surround us that are physically beautiful, but it's also because there's a deeper inner beauty also emanating from those people. And we've overemphasized in our culture superficial beauty and kind of lost track of deeper beauty, of innate beauty. And it feels like kind of like a fast food beauty culture that we're in. Like we don't take time for things anymore. And that's another aspect I feel that is part of beauty is to create beauty takes time. It takes presence and it takes intention and it takes like someone who makes a beautiful object takes time to make this object. We are sitting in a beautiful house filming this. It takes time to create and make a beautiful house. How many of our buildings, like in our Western culture, are erected in like almost a week or a month time, and they're like these concrete blocks in which people live? And how can you connect to the beauty of your soul and the beauty of being and celebrate the beauty of life when you're in this block, in this crate of concrete? I believe it is really undervalued, the importance of beauty and the effect it can have on our path, on our mission, on our soul, and on our purpose.
It's beautiful. It took me to a moment when in Japan, in Kyoto, going to the different Zen temples and realizing that the geometry of these spaces, the precision and beauty of these spaces were literally shifting my consciousness. And I was like, wow, they have it figured out, you know, like there is a certain harmony in there's a harmony in beauty. And when we immerse ourselves in beauty, our body gets to recalibrate to that frequency as well. So we've been there, and you know, and it's still possible, of course. Follow your beauty path courses, but definitely, if we were to take it all apart and see which ways can support us in reconnecting to our beauty, entering into spaces of beauty are very helpful. And that reminds me, one of the most perfect, beautiful space of beauty that we can enter to awaken our inner beauty is nature itself, herself, because she is perfect, she's beauty, she is abundant, and she's just resonating in that frequency. And if we enter into nature, into the park, into the forest, into the river, into the ocean, wherever we can, then we immerse our field into that, and it just, through the force and through the meeting of our energies, we get affected and impacted in a positive way. And I feel so blessed that we are both here right now in these pristine, beautiful mountains of Costa Rica, where I really feel we've been guided to do this work here, to bring through these messages of the rose and this book on the rose, because we're supported in this container of pure beauty all around us, and it really shifts the nervous system. It shifts the whole frequency into reconnecting to that, our natural state. And when I say that's like beauty and that nature is almost one and the same. Our natural state is beautiful. And so when we think about that, which is very interesting, then everything that is not beautiful, even like perhaps the very negative qualities and traits within people, overconsumption, of competitiveness, of just no care, no compassion, no empathy, that shows us how far away from our natural state we've actually come. And how do we now make this transition or take this journey back to beauty? Nature is a great teacher. And I think, before we were talking a little bit about our conversation today, and I think a big part of what we want to share is not just how to get back to beauty, but why is it hard for some people to accept beauty? That's how far we've come, to a point where it's actually rejected. Beauty is actually rejected by people. So that's also an interesting topic to float upon.
Thank you for sharing that. And it's so, it's so important because nature is everywhere. It's wherever we live, we can go to a place where we can connect to a park or to a river or to a tree or to a garden, and really immerse ourselves in the beauty of that. And before going forward with what you just said, why is it so difficult? Because that's very, very present in the collective consciousness. It is possible to create beautiful spaces everywhere. And we have the power as human beings to transform spaces, to transform objects, and to transform an environment also just by the energy that we bring into that environment. And I have an example of this where I know we love to create beautiful spaces when we hold retreat space. It's an important part of the path of the rose, and for me, of the path of the Magdalene, is creating beautiful spaces and just allow people to be immersed in that. But I've also already experienced being in spaces that were not beautiful, that were not cozy, that were even ugly and not in a good state. And just by tuning in, and through our intention and the energy that we brought into the space and creating sacred space and divine space, the space was felt as beautiful by all the people coming into the space. So I think that is a testament to the power that we have to really alchemize and transform our world. And continuing on what you said, I have noticed that there's a mistrust of beauty today in our world. People are afraid or almost sometimes repulsed if something is too beautiful, almost as if it seems too good to be true. If there's some hidden agenda or some hidden intention behind someone that really brings something really beautiful to the table, or someone that creates a beautiful space, or someone who is physically beautiful, I feel that there's a mistrust towards that. And to me, I don't know how it feels to you, but to me it echoes a disbelief of people's own beauty. Like if you're not capable of seeing your own beauty, then it becomes really hard to accept it or to recognize it on the outside, to celebrate it even more. But also, for me, it's a way of looking at the world as well. And you have to be capable to see beauty, to cultivate beauty. And this, to me, comes from our connection to the divine, very clearly. So this mistrust of beauty, for me, is also a mistrust of the invisible, the mystical, the divine.
A lack of faith,
yes,
today, in today's culture. Disconnection to the divine. Yeah. That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing. And I feel that, bringing the rose into this, and she's all of this, but Just for me personally, working with like her as an expression of generous abundance, really, and all flowers when they blossom and when all nature grows and bears fruit, infinite fruit, you can't even eat it all, you feed your community. It's like how to remember that that is also what we're supposed to embody, you know, this generous abundance with ourselves and with the people around us. And we've been talking a little bit about this topic, and it's so beautiful, it's so important, because I think that the paradigm that we're moving into right now is this paradigm of generous abundance.
Yes.
And we are witnessing the miracles that are unfolding through following this path of generous abundance, through truly offering our hearts to each other, all of ourselves. Like I serve you with everything I have, and everything I know, and everything I've been through. Here it is. Use it to grow, as fertilizer for your growth. And when you think about it, that true embodiment is actually what abundance is. Because if we give from that place of here I am, then what is the universe going to do back? Here you are. It's all just this reflection. So I feel like what we're creating right now, and to fill you guys in, like we met not that long ago in September in the UK, and it was just this immediate remembrance and recognition. And since then I've been in touch and have truly just given each other the sacred keys of our hearts. That's what it feels like, you know. And I need to be honest, like there have been moments because of this kind of pollution of beauty, let's say, or this distortion of beauty that some people are almost afraid of it, or it can't be so good to be true that it's not true, you know. But because of that, there's obviously in my own personal experience been some incidences of now like being betrayed or being, let's just say, not fairly treated in relationship. And I could have built up all my walls around my heart. But I feel that something that the rose supports me in doing is like igniting that flame in my heart so high that it burns those walls down.
That's beautiful.
And I think the paradigm we're shifting into right now is just forgiving all of that. Someone recently commented on my YouTube video, like, you don't need to forgive because you're already perfect. Yes, I totally agree. But I think as being very human, there's still certain emotional processes that we have in the process of forgiveness of others and ourselves can be very powerful and transformational. So yes, I think this paradigm shift that we're living right now is one of just like, here's all of me. And like, I love one of my teachers once shared, it's like, what is true? I'm talking about like partnership, but also relationship and friendship. It's like, when we can bow and kiss each other's feet and offer all of ourselves, then like, why live another way? You know, like that's living in totality. What's the purpose of being less than 100%? Everything we do, hello Kitty, everything we do, and with every one we do something with. If it's not resonant, if it's not alignment, if there's a fraction of no, then it's a no. We're only here to be total. And so I guess what I'm saying is, even though there might have been some getting traumatized or perhaps having some bad experiences in really being generous in friendship and relationship, I think our work is to burn those walls down, so we can show up fully with everyone we meet and be part of this collective consciousness of abundant generosity and see the magic that comes from that. It's just beauty. It's coming back to our natural self of a infinitely blossoming flower and fruit-bearing tree, and that's just our natural state. So how do we take that journey back into the beauty way, back into this way of treating every moment in our waking state and sleeping state as sacred, as an offering to the divine? And I think what you said earlier about like this loss of faith It is so true. What if every day we start our day with 10 minutes of just thanking the divine for the epic life we live, to the point where it just becomes this beautiful relationship. I think I was listening to this amazing, I was telling you about him, I find his name, he's great. He references different verses of the Bible a lot, and he was just sharing about how, yeah, I lost my train of thought, so I'll pass it to you. Maybe that's my time to stop.
Yeah, but I feel it's very true what you're sharing, that trust is an important part of being able to share your own beauty. And what is required is that we are fully present and that we are fully showing up. Because if you're holding yourself back, if you're withholding parts of yourself, or part of your gifts, or part of your presence, or your love, or your energy, because you have been hurt, or because you have been betrayed, and we've all had certain experiences in our life, then not only is the other person not able to see your beauty because you're not sharing it, but you're doing yourself such a disservice. By not being present, you miss out on true connections, and you miss out on true opportunities. You miss out on situations that could really bring more beauty and more divinity and more abundance into your life. And it's understandable that we have times in life where we close down more because we have been hurt or because we feel betrayed. Sometimes we need to protect ourselves, or we need to shield ourselves a little bit. But we also need to know when it is time to come out of that, or when this is still holding us back, and when we need to work on this and transform it to go back into flow. And it is true with others, and it is true with ourselves as well. We have to trust ourselves. We had this conversation as well this morning where, you said it's great that you're here and that you said yes to coming here, so that I trusted in the flow as well. And there have been moments in my life where I was in full trust and everything was in flow and there was a lot of abundance. And then through some experiences, like painful, traumatic experiences, I trusted my own guidance less, or I trusted my own capacity to make the right choices for myself less, which really brought me in a state where I was out of flow. And when you're out of flow, it becomes so less easy to really perceive and see the beauty or appreciate the beauty of life. So trust is such an important self-trust, trust in our own guidance, being able to say yes to what we feel inside, to what our soul inspires us to do. Trust in the people around us as well. And I think this is something that we share, even though we've both had experiences that, that have been difficult. We choose to trust rather than to mistrust. We choose to give someone the benefit of the doubt, because there's so much more that can be, so much more positive things that can come into our lives by trusting than the risk we take by trusting other people. The benefits outweigh the risk by far. So yeah, that is definitely part of it. And then beauty, another aspect that I feel is that we're tapping back into something that the ancients knew. Like if we look at ancient traditions of this earth, we both go to Egypt a lot. The beauty of the temples and the adornments of the temples, the paintings, the beauty of the energetic quality that is there. It really awakens something in people. And of course, it is the presence of the god or the goddess is there, the presence. But beyond that, it's also the beauty and care that has been put into the building. I love that in ancient Egypt, the temple was seen as the body of the goddess or the god. another place that really inspired in me the beauty way is Bali. And I know we both love Bali because everything's beautiful there. But they have this consciousness as well. It's really the energy of the goddess Saraswati who guides their creations. And I've told this story before, but I met this man in Bali who was a builder, and who put a prayer on every beam that he put in every house. Because he said, if we don't do this, then we live in dead spaces, in dead houses. And I want the house that welcomes a family to feel alive and to be alive. So part of the beauty way.
That's so beautiful. Nidhi to Saraswati. She has been big in our field, guiding so much creativity and beauty.
Yes.
And something I thought about is, it's like what we might ask, well, why are we having these situations that remove us from beauty? And I think they're just opportunities to deepen our faith and to deepen our trust. And it may be in that moment being separated from that connection is a gift, because then when you're reunited again, it's just such a deeper, profound experience. So yeah, cultivating faith in the divine, I think, is one of the greatest efforts and greatest actions, offerings we can do to walk the beauty way. And I like the word devotion or bhakti, because if you're really craving to connect to your inner beauty, then the practice of bhakti, the practice of devotion, is one of the most powerful things we can do. And that really just means, like, how are we offering our gratitude to life in every moment? How are we living our life in deep gratitude? And this man who lays every beam with devotion, with love, like, how are we making everything we touch, everything we're birthing into creation, a offering? How do we prepare our toast with avocado or whatever it is eating as an offering, to then tend to this vessel? How do we smell the flowers in the garden and maybe take some that have fallen, and maybe one that wants to offer itself, and place it on our altar, and take a moment just to recognize the magical constellation that is life, like the miracle that has birthed everything into its existence. And for me, one of my favorite practices is of devotion. It's through singing and chanting. Through chanting these mantras, which literally means to come out of the mind and into the heart and into this more expanded field of the divine. And we do that through being devotional, through offering our voice, through offering our time, through offering our prayers to that what is greater. And it's such a good reminder. And that's another big reason why when people are beginning on their spiritual path, like, the first and most important thing we can really do, one of the most important things we can do, is just to create a sacred altar in our home that is like a remembrance of that there is something greater orchestrating all of life. And what does the altar do? It just gives us this moment when we look at it to remember that there is this beautiful divine unfolding of all things, and to be grateful for it, to be grateful to be alive. And on it, have our candle, have a rose, have a photo of someone, something that inspires you, whatever it is you want. So yeah, beauty is, like, I feel one strong way to connect to the beauty way is through devotion. And I do, kind of circling back to what we were talking about, how this kind of this distortion of beauty, it's almost like people, it's interesting. There's actually a word. I love German heritage, so it's cool to know this word. It doesn't exist, I think, in English. It's called schadenfroh. And it actually means to be, like, happy for someone's faults. That word exists. That actually shows us how, like, culture. But yeah, it's just like like that is a pattern instilled in many people, to actually, rather than be joyful for somebody's successes and joys, it contracts them. But when that person is doing badly, it brings them joy. It's so twisted. And I think we spoke to it earlier, but I think root cause of that is just because there hasn't been the connection to their own success and their own beauty. And so if you're not happy deep inside, you definitely cannot be happy for anyone else outside of you. So it's about cultivating your own inner garden before being able to celebrate other people's gardens. And maybe if you don't fully feel it, you can even begin by celebrating your brother or sister, family's victories. Even though maybe you're still not fully believing it, like you can be supportive in that way. And slowly as you do this inner work and inner tending, you will really feel it. And that's part of this paradigm shift. It's about just like cheering each other on. It's like, it's not if you rise, I fall. It's if you rise, I rise. And if you keep rising, then I keep rising. And as we're doing this together, and there's no limitations. You know, this idea of scarcity is an illusion. It's fully an illusion. And if you believe in it, you'll make that your reality. But if you remember that we're living in an abundant, generous universe, and the universe will be abundant and generous. So it's about shifting our mindset. It's about seeing the abundance in everything. Again, going back to just practices of devotion, being in nature to support that rekindling, reconnection. And I'm going to pass it to you, but at some point I'd love to just share some more kind of like ideas of what the beauty way, like what is it to walk the beauty way?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it really just what I heard when you were speaking is really an important reminder that we self-love. We need to have self-love before we can really reach out and extend that field of love to other people and that field of beauty to other people. So it's such an important reminder, because of course if we feel very low and we feel very bad for ourselves, or we've been through a difficult and traumatic experience, it's very hard to be joyful for the joy and the success that other people are having. So self-love, definitely, self-care is an important point to start from, and the first step really on this path of the way of beauty. And then I'd like to go into what you just mentioned. So the different parts of the beauty way are for us, what it means to walk the way of beauty, what it means to embody the way of beauty. You just said something that for me is part of the way of beauty, is the capacity to be joyful and supportive of another person's well-being and success, in the sense that when another person is shining their light and sharing their beauty, you feel nourished and inspired by that, and you feel happy that this person is able to do that. So is a deep appreciation and love for beauty that's coming from other sources than yourself. It's, for me, maybe the key part of walking the beauty way.
I think you said one of mine, what I resonate with a lot in terms of the key for the beauty way, and it begins with self-love. You know, it's about first really being able to recognize that who and what we are is beautiful inside and out. And even if we don't believe that, we can begin to believe it through tending to who we are, through practices of self-love, through taking space regularly to offer care and time to yourself, taking warm rose bubble bath, you know, having cacao in a moment of pause, taking time to spend with a sister, and just, you know, looking up into the stars, taking rose oil or an oil you love and giving your body a massage, working with positive affirmations.
Just taking the time to rest as well, when you feel that you should be doing stuff, just listening to that inner need for replenishment as well.
100%, exactly. So I think the beauty way begins by recognizing the beauty that we are. And in that recognition, through practice of self-love, and in that recognition, we can begin to recognize the beauty in everything around us. And I mean, it doesn't, not one needs to happen before the other. We can begin to really like close our eyes really strong. I'll invite you all to do it with me. It feels silly, but just close your eyes, like clench them closed. Don't open them yet. As soon as we open them, we're going to see everything around us as beautiful. This is a challenge. 3, 2, 1, open your eyes. I mean, we could just work with that once in a while. If your mindset is negative, just clench your eyes closed. Count down from 3, 2, 1, and know that when you open your eyes, everything is going to transform into you. And actually, it's not what you're looking at that's changing. It's just the way you look at things. Yeah. And so cultivating the inner beauty, seeing the beauty all around us, having gratitude. Every day when I wake up, the first thing I do is list 10 things that I'm grateful for, and starting to become into the consciousness of, wow, I live in an abundant universe, rather than waking up and be like, oh my God, these are all the horrible things that have happened to me. Well, if you think you can start your day like that, guess what? More horrible things are going to happen to you. Maybe they're actually beautiful blessings and you're just witnessing them as horrible things, So cultivating self-love, seeing the beauty inside, seeing the beauty all around us, and then being embodiments of beauty. And for me, what does that mean? It means, yes, in the part of self-care, but it really also means like, how do we express ourselves? How do we then share the essence of who we are in a world, in friendship and relationship, with nature, with work, with all the things that we interact with? How do we show up as, I love to imagine a flower, a rose that is just like walking and dancing through life. How can we show up like that, where every time we interact with anyone or anything, we're leaving a perfume of beauty in their hearts? And I mean, for a long time, we talked about this when I was really like, I still love the practice of yoga, but there was a time where I took some of the teachings very dogmatically, and some of those teachings are about like really, really, really simplifying everything, and almost like living like not in lack consciousness, that's not it, but almost like suffering a little bit. We have to suffer. And I did that for a while, and it was what I realized is like, I think there's just a big misinterpretation of that yoga sutra, and it's not about needing to suffer through life, and not, it's about embracing that we are human, that we have the opportunity to offer beauty to the world as an offering. How can we turn our life into an offering through who we are? And it goes beyond that, like through our creations. How can all of our creations be offerings to the divine? But how can we, simply by our presence, be an offering to the divine? And that's really beautiful. That, for me, that's walking the beauty way. It's realizing that, it's so it's like this. I hope I'm not being misinterpreted, like as this being superficial. It's really, how do I prepare myself as an offering for the world and inspire those around me through my gentle heart, through my open heart, and also through the beauty that I feel that I'm illuminating through my presence.
That's beautiful. And I feel it's really part of temple consciousness, of living life in temple consciousness. And we are an offering of the divine, and from the divine we are all parts of the divine, we are all parts of God. So we all carry the beauty of the divine within us. We all have the capacity to emanate that. Every being on this planet has this capacity. So I think that is such an important part, and being on the path of the rose and sharing the path of the rose. I love the image of the perfume. Like, we all have our unique beauty. All our beauty is different. That's also why it's so crazy and distorted that in our world today there are some beauty standards and everyone wants to look the same way. while our beauty is also in our uniqueness. It's in our unique frequency, and that expresses itself in a very different and unique way through every person. So it's allowing that to exist as well. And when we do that, we do like bring something positive. We leave a positive imprint on the people we meet, and it is our essence. It is our perfume. It is what we are sharing. And when we do this, our perfume, our unique soul frequency starts to coax out the perfume and the beauty of the person we're with. We create a space, we create a temple space in which the other person can then also start to feel comfortable and confident enough to share their frequency and their perfume. So it's by embodying it, allowing others to be it and to embody it as well.
It's so beautiful. I feel like for some reason what's coming up right now is also just the beauty way is also honoring who and what we are in every moment as well. And I think that there's also been a big disconnection to the very natural cycles and rhythms that we go through as man and woman, but especially as women, you know, following the cycles of our moon, following then also the cycles of the seasons. And I think the beauty way is this, there's this quality of mastery and really being connected to those cycles so that when it is winter and dark and cold outside and maybe, you know, synced up to a part of your moon that's like, oof, it's like the beauty way isn't wearing your best dress and going to a party. The beauty way is deeply honoring that feeling and just serving the self in the best, most nourishing way possible. That is beauty. It's much more beautiful than someone who absolutely doesn't want to be out there in that party, you know, in feeling horrible and misaligned inside. Alignment. It's this like frequency of harmony. So when we are mastered in our inner world and synced with the outer world, knowing what we need, what our needs truly are, and then can offer and serve our needs, I think that's also the beauty way, that alignment. The most I feel like pleasant people to be around are those people who know themselves the best.
Yes.
They know their needs, they know their limits, their boundaries, their yeses and their nos. And it's such a pleasure to be around them because it's like they're just resonating in the harmony of who they are. And it has nothing to do with external appearance. It's really about if they're vibrating in harmony inside because they're being honest with themselves, authentic with themselves, and then authentic and honest with the people around them, being able to use their voice. And, you know, I think different topic, but using their voice to express those needs, because it's one to honor them on your own, but then we're living in community. We live in a reality where there's connection, human connection. So I think it extends to then how do we honor our needs and express them well to the people around us. I think that's also very important and gets me really excited about the part of this paradigm shift, which is truly this coming into deep mastered leadership, you know, where our no's can be from love and can be celebrated rather than shame covering the, oh, sorry, I can't do that right now. I'm feeling shame because you can't show up, but you're not meant to show up. Someone else is meant to show up for that moment, or they're supposed to figure it out on their own. Like the best service we can do is to just be truthful. So that's came through.
Well, I feel it's very much again what I see when you're talking is this image of the rose again. That there are times when we are open, our petals are open, we are freely, fully sharing, and then there are times when we close to allow ourselves to go inward, to allow ourselves to rest. We listen to our inner cycles. I think it is a really important part of this as well. Like to be able to share, well, we have to nourish this essence, this quality on the inside as well. And healthy boundaries are definitely part of it. And healthy boundaries allow us to not be closed off all the time and to be able to fully show up and share when it is time to fully be there and fully be present.
Mm.
Mm.
I mean, there's so much more in the beauty way, but it feels really beautiful and complete. Thank you all so much for tuning in with us. This is also a new experience for us to do it in person, so
Yes.
looking in both directions has been interesting. Thank you for tuning in. We're streaming this on YouTube and on Instagram. We're experimenting with all of this, so please feel free to leave your comments. We pray, our prayer is that everything that we're sharing is of use to all of you, that it can inspire something, that it can support, be supportive in some way. And with that, thank you. Thank you all so much for chiming in
here. Thank you for connecting.
Yeah.
We'll do this again next week.
We'll do this again. If you liked it, please subscribe to our YouTube channels. We'll include each other's in our bio below. And for Instagram, please share some comments and let us know how it went.
Thank you. May we walk in beauty.